What's happening, people? We are back here inside the building. We're back on CubCamTV. Apologies for the slightly delayed start on this one. We had a couple of issues mic-wise and just getting the cameras working, but we are all in the building. Out to everyone locking in today. I'm looking forward to getting into this conversation a ton, purely because we're getting into a discussion about something I feel very, very strongly about, and that is, of course, the Dubstep Awards. Man like Peter from Duploc is in the building. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very great, man. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's great to have you in the building. And
Thanks
obviously,
for having me.
No worries, man. Obviously, you hit me up a couple of days ago about getting a bit of a discussion going about these awards. And obviously, I've been really, really enjoying, on a label level more than anything else, the amount of content that Duploc's been putting out this year. Just to kind of dive into what the Dubstep Awards are. Like, do you want to talk me through how they first came into being as a thing more than anything else?
Yeah, I really took it serious from, I think, 2017. So this is the fourth time we're doing it right now. But before that, prior to 2017, I basically just made little polls on social media for myself, like just collecting what was relevant from the year which happened. And then starting from that ambition, basically just as resume as a community thing, really. And then in 2017, I believe, I just jumped upon it. Like, I had some branding, I did proper polls on the website, I assembled a partner team too with Inverted Sounds, Juno Download, these guys involved, like people from the company who advised me, and we discussed it back and forth, and we decided on the final list. So that's how it really came together, and it grew to what it is now. But as you were mentioning, the main and the most important thing is that it's a community thing, and we're just celebrating another great year for dubstep. That's the key.
Of course, man, of course. Now, obviously, dubstep is, as a genre, kind of, if we're going to go big scale talking here, as a genre, it is a genre built for the dancers. You know, it is it's a genre of dance music at the end of the day. So, obviously, when you were in the process of setting up these awards, and also just on the general running side of things with Duploc, how much has that kind of played into what's happened with you guys this year? Because we are now coming to the end of, obviously, 2020, and the main thing that's happened this year has been lockdowns around the world, and there not being many events and things like that. So how's it affected Duploc in general?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm from Belgium, as you know. You can probably hear it by my accent too.
You know what?
Anyway.
I spent a lot of time in Belgium when I was younger because a lot of my family lived there, so I recognise the accent straight away.
I see. Nice one. I think for me personally, where I live, there has, just in Belgium in general too, but where I live also, there has not really been so much to do for dubstep in general anyway, lockdown or not. So for me, it really focused, it allowed me to focus really much on Duploc.com, the platform, and Duploc, my record label too. So actually, with all due respect to everyone who are having problems, I had a lot of fun in this lockdown. I was able to connect with artists, do new stuff, basically just spend a lot of free time on Duploc, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, it was more of a positive thing than a negative thing for me personally. I can see for the culture in itself and for events worthwhile. And for artists too, it's a disaster for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I can definitely see that, man. I think it's almost when you're kind of in a more, I don't want to say secluded area, but you're in a more area where the sort of live element doesn't come into it as much for you personally, where I suppose you're not really you're not really missing it as much because it wasn't as big a part of what you tend to do.
I am. That makes sense. 100%. I have launched together with Habit, who's from the Netherlands, a new collective too. By the way, it's a local dubstep collective. It's called Baskruid. So we did that this year too. And we wanted to do events because we felt like in Belgium and the Netherlands there were very few events, and we wanted to do events ourselves. But that plan got a little bit messed up. But we did the record label thing anyway. So on that side, we're trying to do it too, but not with Duploc because it's more of an international thing. It's more of a platform thing, and it doesn't really work here on a local scale. But if you do it with a new kind of crew, the Baskruid crew, basically, then it definitely works. We're definitely developing that too.
Definitely, man. I'm just having a little peruse through the awards in general here on my screen, and I tell you what, they were announced a few days ago, and we've already seen 6 different posts coming up about it. There's so many different kind of elements involved in setting something up, setting something like this up. Of course, when you first set it up as a concept, as in the Dubstep Awards, did you imagine it would become as almost verified as it's now become?
I definitely didn't imagine it would become like this, but there was no Dubstep Awards. I mean, like, there used to be Dubstep Awards on the Dubstep forum.
Yeah, I remember.
I think it ran until like 2011, 2012. So the first thing I did was I got in touch with these guys, and I basically asked, like, why did you stop the awards? And basically the forum died a little bit. So yeah, the awards died out too. But one of these guys from the forum is like still involved in like the judging panel right now. So just to keep these guys a little bit involved. So I definitely value that. But yeah, it became really big. And I mean, like, I absolutely love to do it, but it's stressful too to manage it all. I mean, like, we've been, I think in September or August, I started working on it. We need like, you need to assemble like these long lists first. You need to like really like properly consider every release, every DJ, every promoter, every artist. I mean, like, it's not just a list we put up in like 2 days. I mean, like, not even though not everyone might agree with every pick, and I understand why not, but some people, like, yeah, there's a real thought process behind it, so it takes a lot of time to and sorting out these artworks and just social media posts and everything. Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of time. Yeah,
definitely, man. And the thing is, when I look at it, I've got to a point now in life with doing like so many different projects and things where I look at it now and go, oh, that's a lot of posting. Oh, they've got a lot to do. There's so much to get done. And I look at it and go, like, the way you guys kind of handle it and have that kind of finesse about the way everything looks, like everything's so on brand, everything looks so clean. And it genuinely is. It's very enticing in the way people see it. Like, when you're putting these awards together, do you kind of go into it with the intention of focusing solely on the dubstep fans that are already here? Or do you kind of look at it and go, you know what, we could drag some extra people in here?
Yeah, see, that's a good question, man. First of all, yeah, regarding the branding, by the way, it's just from out of my pocket. It's like really expensive. We got like a professional designer on it, and and also the web designing part. We did a new rebranding on the website, so it's an expensive thing too, not only time-wise, also money-wise. But it's just a passion for myself. I just forgot the question. What was the main question?
The main question was kind of looking at when you set these awards up, do you kind of go into it with the intention of kind of focusing solely on the fans that are already there, or looking to kind of bring new people in?
Yeah, so obviously I want to have it like representative for the entire scene. I mean, like, we cannot include everyone, but it should be representative anyway. But it's a great way. Like, I mean, like, many people who are not like really like involved in the scene, they see dubstep as the word dubstep as they know it. They might have a completely wrong image about dubstep, and at least if they see the Dubstep Awards, yeah, they might listen to a track or one or two or something like that. Especially friends from me personal, but other people will definitely be reached too. And then there's like, oh, okay, I didn't actually know that dubstep sounds like this, because the sound has evolved, and that's definitely I mean, like, that's just a way of promoting myself as a platform, but also at the same time to expose dubstep as a genre at the same time, basically. So that's That's
of course, man. No, it makes total sense, and I think what you just said there kind of hits the nail on the head. Dubstep has evolved. Now, obviously, this is something I've got a little bit of insight on in regards to seeing stuff get released every single week. Obviously, through the stuff we do at Juno Download, we get to see, obviously, a lot of these releases as they land, including the stuff that actually lands on the label side of things for yourselves as well. And I've got to say, over the last sort of year and a half, in regards to the quality of music that's actually being released and the consistency and the amount of it, I'd make an argument to say that dubstep's never been kind of stronger in regards to the creativity and the actual sound that's being released. Not necessarily in the sort of live prosperity as much, or getting like as necessarily as many listeners, but the actual quality level, I don't think's ever been any higher.
No, definitely not. And I think, I mean, like, well-established producers are like one factor to it, but especially this year and last year, when we consider the category like the best breakthrough producer, it's not new producer, but it's a breakthrough. So who has like, it's a distinction between both. But I mean, like, we had to consider so many new producers, and I think that's a key. That's one of the keys why the genre is like so healthy. I think that's really important to keep like people involved at the first place, but also like to just attract producers from other genres maybe, or just like convince them to start producing, and then in a few years they might become like at the top of the scene which we're in. So that's
Definitely, man. I mean, this is what makes it so exciting for fans such as myself. When we kind of look through and we see just the pure breadth of quality that is coming through, it does kind of make me go, you know what? There's no reason why you couldn't kind of hit that original height again. Obviously, sounds change, and public kind of the public idea of what people want to hear changes quite substantially over time. But in regards to that actual classic dubstep sound, as I was saying earlier, I don't think it's ever been any stronger. So what we're going to do, we're going to move forward slightly now. And look at this year's awards very specifically. Now, it's kind of crazy looking through a lot of these categories and a lot of these different things that are on the table. So currently up on the Instagram, which I've got loaded up on my screen, we can see the best radio show podcast, we can see the best record label, the best Bandcamp exclusive release, and the best EP release. And I know there's other genres, there's other categories floating around as well. But let's just run through some of these ones that have already been promoted a little bit. So the one that strikes me first of all here is the best Bandcamp exclusive release. So this is quite a clever idea, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like it was to replace the category Best DJ and Best Event Promoter, which are popular categories in the past, and they had to be cancelled for obvious reasons. But Bandcamp, with these Bandcamp Fridays, I think it is a genius idea from Bandcamp in the first place. I mean, like my Bandcamp grew with like many followers this year, which is amazing. But on the other hand, I mean, like I listened to all the Bandcamp exclusive or Bandcamp releases from within Dubstep. I think we reached like 200 to 300 exclusive releases at least. So yeah, I mean, like it would not be fair to include them in Best EP, because if you got like, for example, let's say a Komodo Lone Shark EP from Black Acre or the Alex Perez Ravana EP, I mean, like it's properly pressed on vinyl, the artwork is super sick. I mean, like the sound is there. It makes sense, obviously, to have them in the Best EP. But it would not be fair to leave some out. So I wanted to find a way like how to be as like inclusive as possible, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
And that's why we got up with the idea, the best Bandcamp exclusive release. It's
really, really sick to see. I'm looking through this listing on here. There's so many nominations for the actual release. Like, because obviously, with this, as you said, there were so many releases kind of floating around, and it's been a big part of underground music this year, obviously having that Bandcamp outlet. So when we look at this and we see this is how many that's been nominated, how did you whittle it down to this list? Because the fact there's so many says this was a difficult enough process as it is.
Okay, yeah. So obviously there's the partners too, who have like their equal voice. So that's one part. And to give you an idea how we do it, everyone makes like a long list of like every category, and then I just like compare these lists. Like, for example, Juno Download, Beatport, Deep Tempo, they all have like one specific release listed. I think the release is good too, so it's like moving up in the list. So that's how it works specifically. Sometimes you have to you can nominate 50 releases per category, so that makes sense. So you have to just like decide at some point, and it's hard. I mean, like you could swap one or two releases with another, and that's partially personal preference, but it's also partially like the partners who do it. But it also like a way of like with the awards, and I think with other awards in music especially, what you see is that like certain labels and artists like completely dominate awards. And I get that, but the idea is, and that's how we really create the awards, is to be as inclusive as possible. So if like producers, for example, let's say Cartridge, I think he had a great year, but there was not, if I recall, there was not really like a specific release which would be like nominated somewhere, but he had like really great releases on Bandcamp. So we thought like, okay, that's definitely relevant for him to include one of his releases on Bandcamp. So that's a bit of the thought process. To basically, the award should have like, I know it's not possible to have everyone involved, like who was relevant, but it should be a representation of like everyone who was relevant this year.
That makes total sense, man. And I mean, I look through this list, and there's some. Again, I recognize so many of the names literally just from seeing the releases that land every single week. Like we look through here, we've got Accept on here, Biome, Drone, FLO. We've got Cali. I believe is it pronounced Music? Or is it
sorry?
Is it Mess?
I think it's
Mess.
I'm not sure.
We've got
You shouldn't ask me.
yeah. We've got some Shmi 82. We've got some Shmi 82. Yeah, 82. Alexander on there as well. Cartridge, Double Mine. I could just go on and on and on. There's so many amazing releases on this. Like, do you expect the voting to be quite tight when it actually comes to it?
I mean, like the results, when you voted, you can immediately see the results. So it is quite tight in most of the categories. I think now I just spoke to you prior to this as well, and I mentioned that we got around 35,000 votes registered already right now. So I don't expect like to see another 35,000. That makes sense. So I think what you see now is like almost like the final results. Some categories might shift from first to second place or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely tight. I mean, like, it will be tight. Like in a few categories, it will be exciting to see the final results on the 23rd of December. Yeah,
on the
23rd.
I mean, this is. I mean, it. The thing I love about it is it just adds a level of legitimacy, I feel, to the genre and to the sound. Anything that has that sort of award ceremony involved, or not even necessarily ceremony, it has that thing of, you know what, you can win this award at the end of the year. You can kind of have your, not necessarily validified, but you can have it like given that extra kind of step up. Like, I know from an artist perspective, if I was nominated for a category, I would be really gunning to try and win it. You know, that'd be like a big deal to me, like from an artist perspective. But realistically, I'm assuming there are some people that aren't necessarily the biggest fans of the idea of there being an award ceremony in general.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I could talk about this for hours, and I mean, like, I understand some concerns too. People say it's like underground culture, which doesn't need like music awards. Like, it is numbers, it is a popularity contest. I mean, like, I understand these concerns. However, on the other side, people within the scene, especially like who are like within the scene, they need to understand that many people who like dubstep, but who are not necessarily like following it from day to day. So this awards like enables them to just like look at the list, listen to everything, and then just I missed this. So that's very interesting from my perspective, because it grows my brand too. Let's be honest about that. But yeah, I understand why people got some concerns about it. Obviously, what is also a little bit funny, I won't go too deep into this, but yeah, some people are just like hating on the awards for the purpose of like that they're not nominated within. So
which is, it's always going to happen. It's always going to happen to an extent.
Definitely. I mean, like, and I'm getting sent screenshots of people like who comment on social media of it, and I prefer not to like interact with them. I just read it all, obviously, but it's okay. I mean, like, sometimes it's a little bit frustrating because I try to do like a real positive thing for the community. Not everyone agrees. I completely get it, but instead of like just like showing your comment of like, or like commenting on social media, you could just like send me a little message too, like, you could do this, you could do that, and like these guys are not doing that. But once again, we got over 35,000 votes already. That's like a really minor percentage of people who are like, yeah.
Of course, man. I mean, just
liking it, but it's all good.
Just to hone in on the sort of positive side of that, 35,000 votes is
yeah, man,
insane. Like, you actually sit down and think about it. Like, 35,000 votes. When you go onto SoundCloud, for instance, how many dubstep tracks realistically are hitting over 10K individually? When you look at the grand sort of scheme of things, not that many. When you look at sort of listenership to radio shows and you look at plays on mixes and things like that, how many are hitting that sort of number? And I understand this is a sort of overarching kind of view of everyone jumping into one place at one time, so it's going to be a little bit higher than the average track, but 35,000 people is crazy. Like, that must be an incredible feeling from your end.
It's not really the numbers. I mean, like, it adds value to them too, because if I got only like 500 votes in, I mean, like, nobody is interested, but obviously people are interested, and not especially from people within the scene, but I think it is interesting from people outside of the scene to connect to, like we just discussed. But it gives me, it definitely gives me some power about.
I was going to say, you were holding in a smile there. I could definitely see it.
Somehow, yeah. I mean, like, not really power, but like energy. That's the word I was looking for. It's just giving me energy to like continue what I'm doing, because like, yeah, it's, as said, it's really stressful too. I mean, like, there were like many countless like nights, basically, like sleepless nights. So yeah, it gave me energy to see like it's warmly welcomed by the community, for sure.
Definitely, man, definitely. I was trying to get the smile out of you as we were going. But yeah, I mean,
it's for the thumbnail, maybe.
You betcha. But yeah, looking through this, I mean, there's some. This is something that I found quite interesting. Looking at the best record label, something I'm quite keen to dive into. Again, from the sort of angle that I come from with this, I get to see every label's like new releases every week when it happens, and it seems across the board in dubstep this year, so many labels have released so much good music. Like, this must have been quite a difficult category to kind of whittle down.
Yeah, it definitely was. However, I think last year I struggled more with it. This year it was a little bit more straightforward. We have like some rules on what to nominate, because, like I said, we don't want like one label or artist to be like dominating the entire awards. That's what we really try to avoid. But with the record label, I think it's one of the most important categories. So we had to consider it properly, and every record label which should be mentioned is mentioned. I think you could discuss like a few, but if, like, for example, let's say one record label, I won't name any names, is not selected in that top 15 or top 16 list, it will be represented somewhere else. For example, let's say Wheel and Deal Records, to just give an example. They had a few nice releases, but in comparison with the others, I feel they just missed the top list. But for example, the Marshall on one release, I think it was a really, really strong release, and it was nominated as well. So that's how we try to compensate.
Yeah, of course.
And you cannot, the alternative the alternative to that is to not do that and have like every big release of all these big releases in the categories too, and then like labels like Wheel and Deal, I mean, like, they were nominated in all previous years, but not this year, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, like, if we leave them out, it would feel wrong too, because it is a community thing. They had a great job, but we cannot just nominate like 30 record labels. We have to cut it down. So that's a little bit the thought process behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously, you want it to be a realistic representation of the people that have had the best years, you know? And I think as long as, if there are labels that have had good releases that are still their releases are still being highlighted, but in a release section rather than as an overall label, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I look through this list here, and I can safely say every single one of these labels at some point over the year, I have said their consistency has been amazing in a review I've done for Juno. So I look through it and I go, these labels all scream consistency. And I think when you're talking about a yearly award for a record label, surely it has to be based kind of on that overall consistency as like a main thing, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think the one of the rules for that category was, I think we needed at least 3 releases or 3 or 4 releases for a record label for that year. We had some other rules too, but that was one of the main concerns we had. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That makes sense. I mean, looking through this, I mean, there's some corkers on here, man. I mean, there's a couple of labels that are very close to my heart. White Peach on this list, of course. They've had an amazing year. Encrypted have had an incredible year as well when you look at it. Deep, Dark and Dangerous, obviously, always super, super consistent. Deep Medi as well. I feel that they've kind of come in a little bit under the radar, considering how big a deal Deep Medi actually are. And then they've popped up with a few releases here or there, and then suddenly, bang, you look and they go, wow, they've had a crazy year. It's really, really sick to look through this. Moving on to the best radio show podcast listing on here. Now, this is obviously very interesting because of what a radio show and podcast has kind of become in dubstep more than anything else. Now, you look back in the days to where almost like a Rinse and Sub FM were kind of like the two sort of main platforms. You still had Dub Terrain, you still had Dubstep FM, you still had a couple like the other sort of internet stations floating around. But now, dubstep radio shows are a bit more of a rarity, I would say.
Yeah, I think if you compare it to like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I'd say definitely. But for example, what the guys from Deep Tempo do, I mean, like, it's so refreshing what they do. But that said, I think if you look at the results, that they will show too. I mean, like, still, for example, the Sicario Riz FM show or the Jay Kenzo Riz FM show, I mean, like, they're still really popular shows. And many people still listen to it, like, especially I think on SoundCloud. I'm not sure if people listen to it live. They obviously must listen to it live too. But apart from the UK fan base, that people outside of the UK will probably listen to it like on SoundCloud. And they probably skip on through, like, what's this tune, what's that tune? They look for IDs. And I think that kind of interaction still makes it. Yeah, I mean, I think radio shows and podcasts, and especially like what Deep Tempo and In-Depth Radio, for example, do, like talking through it, but Jay Cancel and Sicarius Zone and then the others are doing it too. Like if you give live commentary like between like making it a real show, then it definitely adds value. I mean, like artists are interested, artists wants to be played, they send demos, like they send tracks to be played, so it's definitely still an important part of the culture. It might be a little bit different back in the days, but it definitely is still important, so it's
definitely, man,
relevant to keep that category up.
I'd 100% agree, and obviously with radio being a very important part of my life, this is a category that I'm really interested to kind of look into and see exactly what's happening with it. And I can safely say next year we're going to be gunning for a place on that list because we have got a dubstep show starting on Trickstar, hosted by myself and Marauder, so we're gunning for it, trust me. But moving forward, nice moving forward into another thing on this list, the best EP release. Now this is almost this to an extent is almost like you go to any sort of major award, this is almost like the best album, and then you go to, and then they have the song of the year and all that sort of stuff. So I feel this is quite a big one, you know, for that sort of nomination. So we've got 15 nominations, I believe, if I've got that down correctly. Yes. So yeah, 15. This must be incredibly difficult to kind of to whittle down.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And once again, as I just already mentioned a few times, we want it to be as inclusive as possible. So for example, the how do you say, the balance between the best EP and best track. I mean, like many of the best EPs, like many tracks within the best EPs, they could be like just like copied in the best track, but then you just forget so many people too, and that's not really what I want. I mean, like you could do it, but it's not an elitist thing. We want to be as inclusive as possible. So it's just balancing a little bit, like what was the best track, like an iconic track, for example, Sub Basic Walk and Skank. I'm not sure if you know that tune out of your head, but I mean, like it was played in many dances. It is just a big tune, and it was best track. So it would make sense to not nominate it as best EP, because both the A and the B side of that release were amazing. I think it could be best EP too, but simply because how iconic the Walk and Skank single was, we put it there. So that's how we approach it. But in the end, I mean, like there are so many EPs coming through. It definitely is super hard to pin down like a final list. And many partners, I mean, like if you see this long list, other partners not specifically agree with every pick, but we just call over the phone, over video meetings like this, and we just discuss it like for hours. I think on a few days before the awards, when we had to pin down the final list, I think I talked for like 4 or 5 hours straight with the Deep Tempo guys for like a few final picks, and we discussed things back and forth, and it was like really exhausting too. But it was worth it, because like it is our opinion, it definitely is, but I think Deep Tempo and myself too, we have such a good overview of what's happening anyway. And to add on that, and not to go too deep into that, but if you're like an artist or a record label and you're pressing, like you don't like any press in general, you're pressing your records to like 50 white label copies who are sold out like within 1 minute, and that's the only thing you do. I mean, like massive respect to what you do and for the entire culture. I love the exclusive. I mean, like I love how it's exclusive.
Of course. Well, it's a bit of a callback to sort of original sort of dubplate culture to an extent.
Exactly, and I mean, like it's a dubplate and sound system culture are still like really important to dubstep, and I definitely value that too. But you cannot argue that all of these kind of labels and artists who are doing that and keeping everything exclusive, you cannot argue that they are like dominating an awards.
No, of course.
That makes sense.
Yeah, of course. No,
so that's a concern or a comment that I saw a few times, or people from those dubstep circles or scenes were like commenting about it. But I understand what they do and I respect what they do. But you have to see it in the grand scheme of things.
Of course. Yeah, no, that does make sense, and I think it's you know what it is. I think when you look at sort of categories for releases and things like that, you have to kind of take into consideration what those categories are representing. Now, a best EP release is going to be, realistically, by sort of my understanding, it should be what most people believe to be the best release. You know, that should be like what it should kind of boil down to. If you've only got 50 copies of it and only 50 people can hear it, how on earth do you expect to kind of win the best overall when so few people actually are able to take it in, you know?
I mean, like the quality of the music, even if it's like a limited release, we could still include it in there. But what I'm saying is that it cannot, the entire awards cannot be not be dominated by it. I mean, like there are like people who just like music which is available on Spotify, on digital, on vinyl too. I mean, like that's relevant to nominate it. But if you'd like to keep music exclusive to yourself, and you don't even want dubstep to get attention, that's basically, I mean, like that's not what dubplate culture is about. It's a small community, especially in the UK, like small communities over the UK. And yeah, I mean, like it's great what they do, and it's how like new producers come through as well, and it's a part of the culture. But I cannot have the awards dominated by these guys. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement with you on that one, man, and I can understand it. But realistically, you've kind of got to go like, if you want more people to vote, more people to be involved in it, and you want more people to kind of understand, not even understand, but you want more people to kind of be representing it, you have to make it accessible for more people. And that's kind of...
Yeah.
That's what
it was not our main concern when we got it up. It was not our main concern, but it definitely. I mean, like if it doesn't really matter how many votes we get or how many people we include, but it's like if you're keeping everything like exclusive and limited and like on a very limited base or something, it doesn't make too much sense for it to have like to be in any awards anyway.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, man. I mean, looking through this, there's a couple we haven't mentioned, and I'm going to leave a little bit up to the imagination. I want people to go and actually check out the awards themselves and check out who's nominated over on the Duploc website, which is duploc.com/awards. Do go and check it out. I'm literally scrolling through it now, and it all looks really, really cool. One thing we're going to quickly touch on is obviously you get 3 votes or 4 votes depending on the category, I believe.
Yeah, we got a list, so if it's somewhere like between 7 and 12 nominees, you get 3 votes. 12 and 16, you get 4 votes. 16 to 20, you get 5 votes. Something like that.
That's cool. Yeah. I've always quite liked that as a voting system as well, because it means you're able to kind of spread the votes around a little bit more. And I think personally that gives you a better kind of actual understanding of what's going on, because you might get a case where everyone has the same favorite release and everyone has the same kind of second favorite release. But or whatever, you might have loads of people that are kind of tied over 2 releases, but if everyone goes one way, then it's not going to be a representation of how it actually is, you know?
That's true too, but yeah, that's definitely true. But you don't have to use like if you have like, for example, in the best Bandcamp category, you have 5 votes. You don't need to use all of your 5 votes. If there is just one which interests you, you can just vote. Vote once. So
cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. We've nearly run out of time, so we're going to finish up in just a second. Obviously, the awards are partnered with Honey and Bass, Juno Download, Unearth Sounds, Beatport, Dubstep Forum, Reddit, Real Dubstep page, obviously Duploc.com, and Deep Tempo as well. So there's a lot of quite influential people involved and influential parties involved with this as a project. I've got to say, everything looks amazing. Congratulations on how everything looks as well and how everything's been received. It must be like a really kind of good feeling to look at it and go, you know what, we are making quite a big difference here, you know?
Yeah, I'm definitely proud of it, for sure. I'm always open to any critics or anything like how to improve. That's something we do every year. We definitely do. But yeah, I'm definitely proud of it. And some people, on an ending note, some people say like, well, for example, the Drum and Bass Awards, they do it like with those 2 sections kind of thing. Like first you got like a public vote, and then you got like a narrow vote, if that makes sense. So you only have like a restricted list of votes you can cast and nominees you can vote for. I don't really want to do that, simply because, I mean, like if we do it by that way, some people who are not interested and who should be represented in awards, they will not push it to their followers, and they will be like left out of the awards simply because they do not push it. And some people who are maybe relevant but not as relevant as others, they push it massively to their following and socials, and then you got a little bit misrepresentation of basically what is relevant this year. And I know maybe some people think maybe it's not me and the partners who should decide what's relevant, but on an absolute ending note, and with all due respect, for example, if some platform like UKF Dubstep or some big platform would host the Dubstep Awards, I think people would be a little bit upset if they wouldn't see like Deep Medi in there, or like any other, or Infernal Sounds, or maybe Foundation Audio or these labels. Simply because like UKF Dubstep doesn't know about these labels, and it would be like the official award from their side, and it would be a total mess. So at least I try to be as integer and authentic as possible in hosting these.
Definitely, man. And I think that's very much represented when you by the amount of obviously partners you've got involved with it. That is, if I was to kind of go, who would I look to if I want to see what's actually happening in dubstep right about now? This would be the kind of list of people I would look through, bar maybe a couple of actual kind of selectors and DJs, all of which are kind of nominated in that radio section. They would be the places I would go to look. So I think it's a really, really well balanced kind of setup. I really like the way everything looks, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how the awards come out. So everything gets announced on the 23rd of December, I believe you said.
Yeah, exactly. You can. I think if you voted, you can just like go back to the page and you can see the results like on a live kind of thing. But yeah, it will be just announced with one post. It is not about who won it really. It is more about like who is nominated to give like recognition for who has been doing something for the scene this year. But obviously, I mean, like, it is an award. Let's not lie about it. People want to win, maybe as well. Some people want to win. So yeah,
of course, people want to win. Of course,
it will be just one post where I announce like the top three of every category, and that's it. And then we're on to next year.
There we go. Oh, well, I'm looking forward to seeing it, man. Well done again for getting everything set up. It all looks amazing. I'm really excited to see how everything goes. We are going to finish up there, guys. Thank you, Peter, for joining me today. It's been wicked to have a chat.
Same, man. Thank you as well. And by the way, big up on improving the channel. You have been, I remember we talked like 6 months ago, and now it grew so much, so big up on that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And obviously, we'll get you back on again, next year before the awards again, and probably in between that at some point as well. Guys, please do remember to hit that subscribe button at the bottom of the page, and obviously make sure you're following on Instagram as well, at KXVU. Before we finish up, what are the socials for Duploc as well?
I think it's just at official Diploc, basically.
There we go. Wicked. Make sure you do go and follow them on every single platform available, and also following on YouTube as well. I'll leave a link to their YouTube channel in the description. Make sure you are getting involved, and of course, as I said, hit that subscribe button, get involved with the channel, notifications on, leave some comments and likes as well. And remember, you can also check out the audio for this conversation via the Breakfast with Kovu podcast. That's available on Spotify, Apple Music, and SoundCloud. It'll be available on those platforms in about an hour or so. So there we go. Out to everyone who's been locked in. It's been a very enjoyable conversation on this, I think it's Thursday. The weeks are flying by right about now, but there we go. Out to everyone who's locked in, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.